Today, I'm going to take you through a reasonably high-level demo about how you migrate users from on-premises hardware. Let's say you currently have them working on workstations under their desk, or maybe workstations, rect workstations in your data center. But how do you migrate them up to, say, the cloud? Well, the key is to just make sure that you provide a consistent end user experience. For IT, obviously, there's considerations they need to take into place as far as how are they going to authenticate users, what applications are they installing, how do they manage user profiles. But from the end user's perspective, they want to log in one day and get to work, and then they want to log in the next day and get to work. And so what I want to show you is how Leostream makes it possible for you to do this. So to do that, let me share my screen. Okay, so here I have the Leostream Connection Broker web interface, and I'm going to log in as the main administrator. You'll see I also have a tab here open for Azure. So what I'm actually going to do is show you migrating from connecting to my workstation under my desk in the office, because I'm actually sitting at home, to connecting to that virtual machine that's sitting up in Azure. So let's sign in here as the main Connection Broker interface. So let's show you the different things that I have set up here to aid that migration. Well, the first thing that I need to do, obviously, is set up my authentication servers. The user is always authenticating in the same way against my corporate, in my case, Active Directory. For you, you might use your SAML-based IDP. Maybe you want to use MFA with Radius. The key is that the user is always entering their credentials in the exact same way. And then what I have here are two centers. Now, a center in Leostream are the external systems that host the different resources you want to offer and connect users to. What I originally had was a AD center here of physical computers. So with my AD authentication server, I create a center for that. And then what Leostream does is reads all of the computer records out of that Active Directory. And you can tell us which OU, so we don't read all the machines if you prefer. So that's the original center that I created. And then as I wanted to start migrating people up to Azure, I created a new center for my Azure subscription. In this case, I happen to be connecting it to East US region. You can, if you have multi-tenant, you want to have multiple regions managed by the broker, you just create additional centers for them. It's very straightforward. And essentially what you need to do is give us the IDs associated with your subscription so that we can execute the Azure APIs and manage the different VMs in that center. So that's the first thing that I did, was create my center so I can inventory everything in here. So now let's look at the configuration section and show you how things are set up now. This is for the users who are connecting into their physical workstations. So here I have a couple pools. I created a pool, which is everything, all my physical computers, and that's kind of an organizational tool for me. So I have a place where I can go and see all of the machines currently registered in Active Directory, and then I broke it up simply by operating systems here. So these are my machines that start with my name, my initials, and then anything running Windows for this particular pool. So that's great. That's all of the machines that are Windows machines with my names. How am I going to make sure the user gets to their particular machine? Well, I'm going to show you that when we get to policies. And then just thinking forward, I also created a pool, which is all of the machines that are in Azure, so that I can migrate users to that going forward. To connect users, today I'm just going to talk about standard HTML5 RDP. I'm going to leverage our Leostream Gateway to do in-browser connections to all the machines. We have plenty of other demos on high-performance display protocols. Let's just kind of look at the Leostream Gateway for these connections. Now, thinking forward, as I'm going to move people from physical workstations where I really may not care as much if they're running all the time, but I'm going to move them to the cloud, well, now I'm going to care if the user leaves their machine on once they're done for the day. So for my future scenario, I've created a power control plan that's going to shut down the machine 5 minutes after the user logs out. This gives them a few minutes to log back in if they realize they left a file and they need to get to it or something. But after that, it'll log the user out. And in the case of Azure, we will take that machine all the way down to the deallocated state. Now, in release plans, I have two, one for, again, while they're on-prem, one for the cloud. In the on-prem case, I'm just going to release the machine back to the pool after the 1 minute after the user logs out. That's just going to release the assignment. It's not going to do anything else. But for the Azure pool, what I'm saying is the first time a user logs in, I've created a pool of a generic pool of machines in Azure, and really the user can get to any one. But then once they get to that one, I want that machine to be theirs. And so I created this persistent on first assignment. The user will get a machine from the pool. Once they connect to it, they'll get assigned to it. And then because the release to pool options are all set to no, whether the user logs out or disconnects, that machine is always theirs. They'll remain assigned to it. And that way, every time they log in, they will continue to get to it. That way, if they customize it in any way, do any, add their own personal applications, they always go back to that machine and we'll still get them. Now, you can do additional personalization and profile management on these machines. That's outside of the scope of Leostream. Whatever tool you're using for that right now, be it FSLogix, Liquidware, those all work perfectly on both on-prem and Azure environments, but it's something you'll manage outside of Leostream and it will just continue to work as users log in. So now let's look at this policy. I have one policy called my user migration policy. So right now what it's doing is it's offering one desktop from my Windows machines. Remember, these are my on-prem machines. I can see the hierarchy here. So they're the Windows machines that are on-prem. But again, I mentioned I want to make sure the user gets to the correct machine, the workstation that's under their desk. So what I've done down here in pool filters is I've configured my computer records in Active Directory so that the managed by attribute for those records contain the user's login name. So in this case, you're going to see me log in as Milo. The machine that's managed by Milo will be the machine that gets offered to them. So it's in essence a way to pair the user to the machine, the particular machine that's in the pool. And here above that, you see I associated my different plans with that machine. Then just to show you, the user is going to be assigned when they log in for a web browser, they're going to be assigned to that user migration policy. And in this case, I'm actually logging the user in as the local user. They're not logging into the machine with their domain credentials. They've got the same username and password on the machine, but it's local. It just happens to be how we have our machine set up. I could, if I want, log them in as a domain user too, obviously. All right, so let's go over here. Actually, let's go over here and filter our desktops list so we can look at those Windows machines only. And then let's see the login. So now I'm going to log in as an end user, Milo in particular. So if you see what he sees, message board, you can configure that in case you have messages you want to give the users, disclaimers, maybe a link to a download, whatever you need. This user happened to has power control options. Both the policy and role allows them to restart the machine, maybe stop it if you want. For a physical machine, we can restart it, but with the broker sends wake on LAN packages to do that. So you have some network considerations to take into consideration there. But let me go ahead and connect. So this again, connecting me to my workstation in the office, it's going to leverage the Leostream Gateway to launch an HTML5 connection in the browser. So just to preview, that's going on in the background there. If we look at the system log page, you can see I got logged in. There's the actual name of the machine that Milo was offered, even though he saw it as my machine, just kind of a generic name. I did that by setting the display name of the pool and then having the policy just display the display name of the pool to the user. And I did that specifically so I can change what the user gets access to, and they don't know because what they see is the pool name, which is fixed. So the machine is now assigned to Milo. If I look here on the desktops page, I can in fact see that Milo is connected to that machine. And there's my machine. You see I've got my pretty background, really only one application here. So now let's say Milo logs out for the day. Let's sign out there. So I'm going to go ahead and close that tab. So now what I'm going to do is migrate that user over to that machine in Azure, or an machine in Azure, I should say. So to do that, I'm going to go back to the policy page here. Now there's a few things I could do. I could duplicate this policy and create a copy of it and then edit the copy and then just redo the assignments table. What I'm going to do instead is actually edit this existing policy. That way I can leave my assignments table alone. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the pool the user has access to. And I want to change the power control plan to shut down on logout and make this the persistent on first release. And then in the case of my Azure machines, I don't have them set up with a managed by, the user's not hard coded to a particular machine in the pool. I want them to get any machine. So I'm going to remove that filter and go ahead and save that. Now, before the user logs in, I'll want to make sure that I got that all right. So I can come over here and do a test login for Milo. And I run that and I see the user is still getting the user migration policy, but now they're getting the pool Azure VMs. And I can look down and see the machine that they'd be offered. And that machine's perfectly fine. So now if I log in again as Milo, well, this looks to Milo exactly the same. Now when they're restarting and stopping, they're doing so in Azure though instead. But I can come in and here at Connect, and it's going to launch the in-browser connection. And lo and behold, to the user, it's not going to look any different. Again, if you do have profiles that you want to move over, you can use different software solutions to do that. But then you're pretty much off and running. And now just to show you here, if I look back at my resources desktops page, let's switch to the Azure pool. You notice he's not assigned here. I come into Azure and now the user is assigned to that machine there. But from the user's perspective, it looks exactly the same. So again, key is consistent end user experience, and then obviously good performance, which you'll want to pick the protocol that works best for you. This happened to be an example using the HTML5 viewer that Leostream provides through our gateway. If you want to try any of this out, you've got questions about how to migrate, maybe which platform you want to migrate to, you can feel free to reach out to us at sales@leostream.com. Thanks.